to order the full authority meeting at 6:38. And I would remind members, staff and guests, and members of the public that the full authority board meeting is live streamed on our website and will be archived along with the official written minutes of the meeting. But as such, comments and opinions expressed may be published, and any comments expressed by individual board members, guests, and the general public are their own and do not represent the opinions or comments of the full authority or the NPCA Board of Directors. So with that, then, members, we do have quorum, and I would first ask for any declarations of conflict of interest that you're aware of on any items in the agenda. And seeing none, then I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. But I think there is an addition that we'd like to add to this agenda. Recognize Member Hodgson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was hoping that in the as reference to coordinated provincial plan review report number 11216, that we might consider permitting Austin Kirkby to say a few words about a couple of the items, and then we may have an amendment to bring forward later in the agenda.
Thank you, Bill. Now I understand in order to, according to our procedure, to add a presentation, we need a 2/3 majority to make this addition. So the motion has been put by Member Hodgson that Ms. Austin Kirkby be allowed to speak on the agenda. And we'll make that agenda item, where should we put that in? Right, so we'll do that right after adopting the minutes, so it becomes following item 2 on the agenda. So I'll call the question. All those in favor? That's carried unanimous. So Austin will first deal with a couple items on the agenda, then I'll call you forward. Thank you. So first motion that I'd like is approval of the minutes of the full authority board meeting of September 21st. And in fact, if we can, if members are willing, the resolution to approve the minutes of the full authority meeting of the 21st, the draft minutes of the Community Liaison Advisory Committee meeting of September the 8th to be received. The full authority board approve the minutes of the Budget Steering Committee meeting of October 12th and the recommendations therein, and the draft minutes of the Watershed Floodplain Committee meeting held October 12th to be received for information. Moved by Member Annunziata. Seconded by Member Maloney. Are there any questions to any of those minutes? Seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Members, is there any business arising from those minutes that is not already dealt with on the agenda today? Seeing none, then I would ask members again, the next item, well, that is, this is where I think we were going to call Ms. Kirkby to the podium before we go to the correspondence. So Austin, thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad to be here. I actually came to thank your staff, but I see you have the parts of the comprehensive review on your agenda tonight, and one of them is the vegetative protection zone, about that. And I'm going to have to go back to, I didn't bring it with me, to be honest, we jumped in the car, and to the response I gave this afternoon at this afternoon's meeting about the vegetative protection zone, because I do have verification from a senior member of MAH that the vegetative protection zone can contain crops as well as some sort of vegetation protection zone from the end of the crop to the edge of the drain or hydrologic feature. And I have that in an email from her because I was trying to prepare a response to Greenbelt for the Ag Subcommittee of Niagara Lake. And I shared that with your committee of council, regional council this afternoon. I didn't bring it with me, but definitely I have confirmation of that is there. And I think it's misunderstood perhaps and misinterpreted because there is no clarifying definition in the Greenbelt policy about what can be in that vegetative protection zone. We ourselves thought it was unmanaged vegetation or managed vegetation. Now we have clarification at the end of the time when we have to submit submissions into the Greenbelt. It's never too late, but I know that I gave that to your committee this afternoon and I'm giving it tonight. But I believe there's an amended motion because I'm reading here that recommending the establishment of deep-rooted native grasses which significantly aids in bank stabilization and so forth. As a farmer living adjacent to two drains right now, before another one, but right now we have two. We have one that's completely sod, down and up, and so it's maintained actually by the town. It's just like it's a keeper mowing. The one on where we irrigate has the bottom, the slope, and then the side and the crops. And we ourselves, as Niagara Lake, we've been, I think, very progressive in saying we need 15 meters. In fact, our 5 meters. We have been very responsible in the fact that our drainage and irrigation person has said you need some sort of vegetation buffer so I can get my equipment in there. And also we need it sod because of the turning of our heavy equipment that gets turned around in those areas repeatedly. So we are recommending a 5 meter vegetative buffer sod and then the crops within that 30 meter or 15 in some cases. Vegetative buffer. It talks about deep-rooted here, and some of the farmers are using deep-rooted vegetation within their grape rows. I just passed one today on line 3. They are actually, I don't know whether it's radish or whatever, and that is what they're using in a combination with their sod. But in the sloped area, they're going to, our drainage and irrigation person is trying to get, when he maintains the drain, if there's buffer areas exposed or bare areas exposed, he's going to try and plant that with some sort of low plants that have roots that will not impact the specialty crop. So he has determined that it has to be done and the plants have to be picked in consultation with a crop specialist. We have no problem with that. I think that's what should be done. And that's in the bare areas that are exposed whenever the drains are maintained. So you have 3 different areas, and I think the amended motion is supposed to change that wording somehow to say, I don't have it in front of me, but that the vegetation protection zone is going to be a sod in that 5 meter that Niagara Lake Ag Subcommittee is calling for. I don't think anybody else is, but we think it's prudent to apply that, and that's our submission to the province, is that the vegetation protection zone, just clarify that that is accurate, that the property can extend into that area with a 5 meter vegetative buffer zone with crops or with plants on the slope side of the drain, and of course we do our sod in the orchards and vineyards, and some of them are now doing radish plants and so forth, but they're maintained, and you have to maintain them for specialty crop, otherwise you get the insects. It is so, peaches are so sensitive that if you mow tall grass during production time, the plant bugs that are living in that tall grass go to the crop and they infect the peach. And last year, my neighbor had bushels and bushels and bushels of peaches that he could not sell because these plants are plant bugs. Bill can tell you, but they will mark the fruit so badly you can't sell it. And so it's so sensitive, our area and our crops, and I'm hoping people understand that. But the main reason, so I think there's an amended definition here. You're definitely supporting a water course mapping. That's something that Niagara Lake also does, or has, the Niagara Lake Ag Subcommittee one. And there are positive things in here that I see to support going forward. But I particularly want to tell members of this board about how pleased I am with the communication, collaboration, as I'm told, should be, between the board, or your CAO, and our Dennis is the chairman of the Irrigation Committee of Niagara Lake, or Ag Subcommittee, sorry. I stepped down, hoping to retire. I'm still there, doing the responses. But if it wasn't for the information coming from your staff to tell us about certain policy plans in the works, we would not have known anything about what was happening. I say one was the wetland response, one was the soils. That's from a map that we didn't know because it was never communicated by our town to the Ag Advisory Committee. Don't know whether they got it, but if it hadn't been for your staff, we would not have been able to make a response. And that is so important for our community, especially crop, to have input, because we do not fit, never will fit, into a provincial policy. We are just too unique. We're not special, we're just unique and have unique needs. So I just wanted to thank the staff publicly for that collaboration with us, and going forward, it's no different than the regional staff. There's some wonderful staff out there, and I see a big difference in that rapport, and I'm sure it'll keep up. But as I say, I just came here actually to say that, and also to say I support what you're saying, and I support the amendment, because I think the amendment does change a little bit. But I'll stay here. If you need to ask me any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Thank you, Roger. And I would want to thank you for also your persistence on this subject area and your participation in the strategic plan process for the Conservation Authority, and your attention to the details of what is written in policy that many of us may not quite understand as well as you have through your experience both at City Council and as a farmer over many, many years.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
I would ask you to stay for a minute if there are questions from the members with regard to the suggested amendments. And first I wanted to ask Carmen to respond a bit to your comments and where we might put those amendments into our agenda tonight. Go ahead, Carmen.
If I may respectfully ask the chair, perhaps we could move up to the staff report, and then the staff can provide comments. It is report number 112-6B, coordinated provincial plan review.
Thank you, Carmen. Members, Mayor Joyner has moved that we adjust the agenda again and bring that relevant report back up to this point in the agenda so we can deal with it while Austin is still at the podium and the subject is fresh in mind. So moved by Member Joyner, seconded by Member B. All those in favor? That carries. Thank you. So first speakers, let me adjust the sound system a bit.
Yeah.
So I go back to Carmen for a moment and we'll address the report first and then ask members for their suggestions. And I think Member Hodgson has the suggested amendments.
and I'm going to respectfully defer to Suzanne. Suzanne is the author of the report, but I wanted to talk about two things. One is that the region of Niagara, the town of Niagara on the Lake, and the Conservation Authority cooperatively work together in doing what we call contemporary watercourse mapping. It's still a work in progress, but it is our request that the province adopt this modeling that we've done with the town of Niagara on the Lake, and thereafter, when subsequent municipalities do their official plan review, we already have a process that's been developed. So that's one comment. The second is that when it comes to supporting agriculture, we've asked that, and specifically to what Austin's referring to, is that vegetated protective zone areas under the green belt that has been determined to not require self-sustaining vegetation, for example, the tenderfoot and the grapelands, the NPCA has recommended the establishment of deep-rooted native grasses. What we just heard from Austin is that that may be applicable in some scenarios, but the farmer needs flexibility to perhaps sod-like grasses. Is one possibility, is what I've heard. So although we've said deep-rooted native grasses, we heard from the delegation that the farmer requires some flexibility. And so, but this wouldn't be applicable to other farming areas where there's a general acceptance of these vegetative buffers. So it's only for those that are impacting these specialty crops. And then we also recommend that the NPCA partner with our provincial counterparts, with willing landowners, to do some test sites, some pilot programs, which is in alignment with what the town and the region are saying, so we can demonstrate practical buffer zones that will work, protect the water courses, and also be economically viable for the farmer. So those are my preliminary comments.
Thank you, Carmen. Bill, if you would put the suggested amendments on the floor, then we can discuss those. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So actually, the one that Carmen was just referring to is really just extending the wording from deep-rooted native grasses on page, this is on page 3 of 6 of the report, to deep-rooted native grasses or sod-like plants. And as Austin has explained, there are times when the more narrower definition may not quite provide the flexibility required because of the specifics of the site. And then while I'm at the other area, and Austin spoke at the region about this one today, is that the province notes the importance, really the primacy of specialty croplands in its provincial policy statement. It doesn't really go on to note the importance and primacy of specialty croplands in the Greenbelt Plan. And we really would think that that our both the report from the NPCA and our report that we received this afternoon from the region should encourage the province to, essentially start with a very bold policy statement. We say we want to protect farmland, and that's one of the priorities of the Greenbelt. Then we should maybe go that step further and identify the specialty croplands as a specialty crop zone, some kind of whatever fits into the planning framework, so that they begin their discussion of our presentation of the amended Greenbelt policies with that recognition, so that on the one hand they call it specialty cropland, and there are special policies that attach to the specialty cropland. For example, we can never add or subtract to specialty croplands. They're there, and that's of all things that are permanent about the Greenbelt plan, specialty cropland is permanent. And I think the farm community respects that and values that, but it needs then to be somehow put in at the front end of the policy statements, so that importance is not lost. we don't have them competing land uses that have nothing to do with the growing of crops on specialty croplands being given primacy, really, in the interpretation. And I think it's really just to try to ensure that our planning decisions over the next 10 years using the new updated plan are based on that, on recognition of the importance of specialty croplands in farming, not specialty croplands as a park, etc. Any other kind of competing use. So I would put those two recommendations forward. Don't have the wording really on how we would encourage that, but there's something written here which I'll hand back to the staff here and they can on that, and the idea of the specialty crop zone and the wording that we
With the indulgence of members, I'd ask, let's do the first amendment, and if you could read it out, and I'll call a vote on that, if there.
Okay,
and then we'll go to the second part.
Before that happens.
Well, we're going to put that first amendment on the floor, and then I'll ask you to speak.
And that is that we amend the statement on page 3 of 6 of the report from deep-rooted native grasses to deep-rooted native grasses or sod-like plants. So it's a very minor amendment, but it does materially affect the flexibility that growers may require.
Thank you. With your indulgence, members, I'd ask Austin to comment on that specific item.
And I think you have to realize that we're not trying to we're not trying to devoid protection of our water courses. We know how important they are. But if you drive through the rural area of Niagara Lake, I know we have sod on each side of our drain. So we have no cracks that's eroded to the drain, it's solid. And that's what you notice when you drive carefully through Niagara Lake and see that grass sod is permanent. It's there all year, and it's very tough, and our equipment can move around it very carefully. In with the crops are the deep-rooted vegetation to provide drainage for the crop rows, and that's what they're there for. A lot of them are using radish, but we don't necessarily need them in the buffer where our equipment is. Some may choose to do that, but most people have permanent sod. And that's what you need to understand. And in that, well, I'm sure you know, but there's Greenbelt Natural Heritage Systems, unfortunately, quite expensive in Niagara Lake. And what it says in your Greenbelt policy, any development that is non-agriculture has to return 30% of the lot coverage, whatever development that is, to natural self-sustaining vegetation. Well, you can imagine if you're a tender fruit grower right adjacent to that property, you're going to be impacted by that coverage of natural. These are the little things that we need attention to for the specialty crop area. I'm not sure if you've passed, supported, or adopted the collaboration report yet or not, but in there was a technical brief by Kevin Kerr, who was a crop specialist for OMAPA for many years, works at Brock University now. And he very specifically tells you in there what you should and shouldn't do adjacent to specialty crops. That's one of the things, the areas that we need attention to, is the fact that you can't have unmanaged vegetation adjacent to our crops. It's full of diseases, it's full of pests, and it's just going to. So I just wanted to clarify that, and definitely we support the specialty crop zone. That is the only way in the future that you're going to be able to open the Greenbelt plan and see specialty crop, and the policy area is going to be right there, instead of in section 9 and 3257 or something like that. Throughout the document, which is very, very difficult to read and understand. You open the book, if we're special enough to be protected against development, I'm all for that. I don't have a problem. None of the farmers comment, very few. Then fine, give us the other half. Provide us with the separate policy section for us and address these issues that we're bringing up and discussing tonight. That's all we ask. So,
Okay. Thank you. So members, I call a question on the amendment to add the words "or deep-rooted vegetation." I think that's close, Bill?
Or sod-like plants.
Okay.
Deep-rooted native grasses or sod-like plants.
All right. So all those in favor of that amendment? That carries then. Thank you. Lisa, we have the wording. For me? Oh, good question. I think Sandy seconded that. And then the second amendment was to add the zoning.
And so I'll read
That first.
is that the NPCA supports the request of local stakeholders for the designation of a, quote, specialty crop zone to be included in all legislation identified in the consolidated review.
And Mayor Dart, seconds that motion. Now, members, any further discussion to that? So I'll call the question on the amendment, and then I'll call the question on the amended motion. So all those in favor of the amendment? That carries. Unanimous. Thank you. Then the motion that I would like a mover and seconder for is that report number 1216, as amended, be approved by the board and forwarded to the province for their consideration in the review of the Greenbelt Plan, Place to Grow Plan, and an agri-startup plan. And that a copy of this report be forwarded to the watershed municipalities. So with that, and seconded by, I think it was, I need a mover and a seconder. So Mayor Dart and Member Hodgson. Carmen, did we need to add anything further to that report? Okay. Members, you ready for the question? All those in favor? That carries in. Thank you. So that deals with item 17. And now we need to go back to the correspondence items. And you may note, members, we've added at your table an additional piece of correspondence from Mr. Bruce McKenzie, who was the gentleman who was awarded at our Water Environmental Leadership Award, was given one award, and he has a letter of thanks to us. Have you been able to find that additional correspondence, members? And I guess I'm getting a tour of the Irish Grove woodlot as well. So, members, are you ready to approve? So the suggestion here is that we separate out the correspondence item, the wetland conservation strategy for Ontario, and so that we can get a specific motion to support it. So for the moment then, the motion to receive the other three items, the Conservation Act review, the St. Catharines Where Do My Taxes Go flyer. I just had that on the agenda, so you'll note that the NPCA contribution is noted in that breakout supplied by the city to with their tax bill. And thirdly is the correspondence from Mr. Bruce McKenzie. The mover and seconder for those two items, Mayor Campion, Member Beatty. All those in favor? That carries, and thank you. So then the last item is the paper position of the draft, Wetland Conservation Authority, Conservation Strategy for Ontario. This is the draft that was presented by the province for all conservation authorities to receive and comment on. So I'd like a motion to receive that. And Carmen, we had, I think we wanted to comment in this motion as well about our satisfaction with what has been presented, if we could. If we could speak to that for a moment, then I'll take the motion.
All right, board members, this document here, we participated with a delegation to the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry at the AMO conference, where we met with the Minister in partnership with the regional municipality of Niagara. There are three policy instruments here that we're supportive of. And if you adopt the motion supporting this, you would also be supportive. The first one is that we improve our mapping with more ground truthing. So mapping of hazard lands, mapping of our water courses. And so the municipalities and Conservation Authority are working on updating maps. The second is to take a look at improving the Ontario wetland evaluation system. So what are the parameters that designate a wetland? The province is proposing to review it, look at the new science, and see if there's opportunities to improve that evaluation system. And then third, the province is looking to continue their strategy of possibly developing a hierarchy, which includes land compensation. Those are all parameters that this board has approved in the past. So if you do this motion, you'd be improving this strategy.
Thank you, Carmen. So members, I'm looking for a motion to receive and support the position as presented by the province. Mickey? And a seconder? Right. Member Campion? Any further discussions? All those in favor then? That carries. Thank you. Okay, next item. Chairman's remarks, and it's been a busy month since we last met, but I just wanted to make limited comments and focus on the Great Lakes Public Forum of 2016. It was a forum hosted by the, let's just go through this. I'll read the general terms of it. We were attended the forum with the company of members Campion, Aspersetts, Beatty, and Vice Chair Nunziata, and staff members Peter Graham and Jocelyn Baker. And those are the staff relevant to this. This forum is about the Great Lakes Water Quality Agreement. And this is an agreement between the Government of Canada and the Government of the United States. It was altered or improved in 2012 by the Harper government of Canada and the Obama administration of the United States. We renewed and revised the Great Lakes Quality Agreement. And this is the mechanism which has guided binational cooperation to restore and protect the Great Lakes water quality and the ecosystem health around the basin for the last 4 decades. In renewing the agreement, the government is committed to holding a Great Lakes Public Forum every 3 years to publicly review the state of the Great Lakes, report progress on implementation of the Great Lakes Quality Agreement, and discuss priorities for science and action. So that is why the Conservation Authority is attended. It's a great deal part of our restoration and stewardship mandate, and we have the appropriate staff there to hear about it. One of our most directly related projects is the restoration of the area of concern, the Niagara River area of concern. We call it the RAP program. We do that, we do get a federal support to continue that work. So very relevant conference. There was a considerable presence from the First Nations at this watershed, this conference. Speakers from First Nations, the Métis Nation of Ontario, the Tuscarora of the United States, and the Dr. Brian Tucker of the Métis Nation of Ontario. I guess what was gratifying to me and what struck me is that the First Nations share the same understanding of the connection between the water, the land, and the environment, and the health of the people around the lakes. They share the same understanding as our farmers, as our municipalities and conservation authorities. So it seems like they were very much on the same page, and the First Nations were making a point that they wanted to be part of the solution, part of the process, And it was gratifying to see that they are fully engaged in this. So in fact, it is the United States, Canada, and the First Nations. The other aspects of the report, of the conference that I found interesting was an understanding of groundwater impacts to the Great Lakes. And it was interesting relative to the Waukesha agreement that deals more with taking water from the lakes than water quality. But there was an explanation of discussion a bit at the conference about how the deep aquifer that Waukesha was drawing its water from does feed Lake Michigan. And if they didn't have a solution, they were going to expose the radon in the rock in the deep aquifer, and that was going to come out through the well system or go into the lake. So it's interesting, the two different agreements are somewhat connected, and the groundwater portion of this conference made that clear. Well, the other interesting sessions was about the invasive species. The municipalities we're dealing with, it was the Phragmites was one. The other one was, there is another mollusk, another mussel that has come along and invaded alongside of the zebra mussel, but that's having a significant effect. A lot of talk about possibilities of Asian carp getting into the lakes. And that also got us to another area of interest is the St. Lawrence Seaway Management Corporation and generally Great Lakes Shipping, where the ships are, the control of what gets dumped by the ships in the lake that might contain the invasive species. We remember that seemed to be the source of the zebra mussels. So that subject was also part of the conference, and the concern that the whole management agreement is coming up in 2018 was also considered relevant to this conference. A couple of other members were attended with me, and I wonder if they had any comment to add on that conference. Sandy and James and Stuart. Sandy, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Very informative. And when you're representing a community that's surrounded by water, I think it's important to make sure that we're doing what we can to ensure that the water quality treaty agreement is adhered to. So a couple of quick points. I was most interested in algae blooms and how it impacts certainly our shoreline, Lake Erie shoreline. Some great information. Again, didn't quite get the answers I needed to, but hopefully working with staff, I think it just emphasizes or re-emphasizes the point why the water quality water quality reporting is so important, because at some point those algae blooms are very much so affected by inland ground contamination and the increased phosphorus load. So again, as we go forward moving with the process, I'm hoping that we can somehow do our part to pass on the pertinent information to the provincial and federal levels, because again, this is a multifaceted problem that is going to need the cooperation of a lot of bodies. Understanding why the phosphorus load is what it is, the nutrient mix, and how it impacts not only a tourism economic perspective, but certainly water quality along the shoreline. So moving forward, a lot of moving parts. I'm looking forward to rolling up my sleeves and pressing forward on getting some answers to some of the questions that were raised at the conference.
Thank you, Sandy. Members, I guess the other comment was that we did enjoy an excellent evening, the Water Environmental Leadership Award, the annual John Turner event. It was a great success. I was pleased to assist in the evening. We awarded to Mr. Bruce McKenzie and to the Central Public School. They were, I think, very appreciative of the award, and I think we were very appreciative of the efforts they put towards the missions and goals of the Conservation Authority. So with that, members, I have no further comments, and I would ask Carmen to take the mic and provide us with your comments for the last activities of the last month.
Okay, I just have three brief things. The first, I'm really happy to give you the initial numbers on the Thanksgiving festival that we held. We had a paid attendance of over 22,000, which represents the second highest attendance in the past decade. And if it didn't rain for Saturday, I think we would have beat the record. So kudos to all the departments. It's an all hands on deck event. And so the staff are really engaged. In particular, there's a lot of staff involved, but the two that really went far and above the call was Brianne Wilson and Carrie Royer. They just really made the event fantastic. And we had about 7,000 to 10,000 children attend this year. Because it's 14 and under, it's free for them. We don't really have good attendance numbers, that quantity number, but that's our estimate. And we saw an increase because we had free face painting, bouncy castles, and tree rides before those paid things, but now they're just offered free. We had over 250 volunteers over 4 days, which is another record number. And I'm really happy to report one group of volunteers was the Eco Defenders. In 2015, our garbage production was 4,082 kilograms, which represented 82% of our garbage. This year, with Eco Defenders, was 297 kilograms, which represented 4.7. So we diverted waste of about 95% of our waste diversion. So it all went to recyclables and organic recyclables due to the volunteer efforts of Eco Defenders. So that was fantastic to hear. Our revenue, general revenue sales for our beer and wine sales continues to be a success at 21,000. And we do a really good business now with our mill. It was in operation last year, it wasn't. And we actually sold 400 bags of flour for a revenue of $3,300. So it's good that people still have that culturalism and the historical to purchase our flour. So again, we had 2 outstanding employees, Brian Wilson and Carrie Royer, who made a remarkable event, and had a lot of staff all behind supporting that effort. The second is just to remind you that the Binberg tour is tomorrow. It starts at 11 o'clock. It's about a 2-hour tour, and thereafter there's a lunch for those board members who are attending. And then third, I just also want to echo the chair's comments. The Right Honorable John Turner event, our Water and Environmental Leadership Award, was sold out. Again, that's due to the efforts of Ken Vallier and Renee from our foundation. But I really want to thank the foundation, Chairman Timms, and especially our MC, Councillor Beatty, who did a remarkable job as our MC. And thank you, Mayor Maloney, for introducing John Turner. It was well received.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. Members, do you have any questions to the remarks of myself or the CAO? Brian, please.
Not a question, but a comment. One thing that we did do during that John Turner event is make the overture to the people who were there have consideration for joining our foundation. And I understand we've had several very, very high caliber responses to that. So it's a good start in terms of rebuilding the foundation.
Thank you, Brian. April?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just quickly to Carmen's comments about the Falls Festival, I just want to say that I had the pleasure of, I know a lot of people volunteered at the beer and wine tent. I volunteered and did photography, which turned into more of a bit of a social event for me on the Saturday. And then I had the pleasure of doing tours at the Ball Home. And I had sent forward an email to Carmen and some staff just to say that I really was a great opportunity for me to get to know some of the staff better and to really see how passionate they are about the Conservation Authority as a whole, but particularly that weekend about the festival. So it was really eye-opening in a really positive way, and I really enjoyed it. And they do a fantastic job, and they're very passionate. So I just wanted to mention that. And I will be doing tours of the Ball Home next year because that was super fun.
Excellent. Sandy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to follow up on those comments, I attended with my children. It was absolutely a wonderful event. If I can pass on one piece of feedback that I received from a long-time couple that has come to the Thanksgiving festival for the past decade is increasing the handicap parking on those festival days. So if there's an opportunity to increase handicap parking capacity just on those busy festival days, if we can accommodate that, that would make their day. Unfortunately, this gentleman was wheelchair bound. No other complaints other than increasing the capacity on those busy days.
Thank you. Mayor Maloney?
Just a John Turner there. It was a nice little affair. It's difficult to acknowledge the contributions of so many people who put it on. But I would like to acknowledge the individual who was the MC, Brian Beatty, did an excellent job, really did well, and I'd like to acknowledge him as well.
Thank you. Very much appreciated. And I think you may have the job for next year, right? And members, just I want to thank you, especially the members that volunteered for the Balls Falls event, and then staff. It seems to get better, bigger, better every year. The vendor appreciation dinner was especially rewarding on the Friday night because we did have a chance to circulate among the vendors. And I'm hearing very good reports from last year and the beginning, excellent day we had on Friday. So with that, members, I want to express my appreciation to all staff and members for the Balls Falls event and for the John Turner event. Now, members, I'd like you to turn your attention to the information reports. We have quite a number of reports there, but we also have two presentations with regard to those information reports. So I'd ask staff, perhaps we could start with the staff presentation, and then I would take a motion that following those two staff presentations, that the information reports 99 to 109 be received. So Carmen, first presentation. Who's that?
Okay.
Sorry, Mike, we have a budget presentation on the slide, so.
Want to do that first?
No, we'll ask Mike to make the adjustments.
Okay, good evening. So this presentation is on the Board Area Trail section, which was in agreement with the Niagara Region Wind Corporation, and the purpose is to show a photo review of the area before, during, and after construction to assess the impacts and the project goal. The project goal is pre- and post-construction conditions to be the same or better. Okay, so just as an overview, the Gordon Area Trail Conservation Area is 13 kilometers or 8 miles, a linear path of recreation. I didn't do it.
Doesn't touch anything up here. Sorry, Mike, I did that when I synchronized this computer with the screen, so that's what happened to it. I won't touch anything.
No worries. Okay, thank you. An agreement was between the Niagara Region Wind Corporation and the NPCA for a portion of the trail, which was just a little over 600 meters between Elgin Road and our west boundary. And the project was to be started in 2015 and ended in 2016 with ongoing use of that area for wind turbine maintenance, which is estimated to be one-time work. So with the assessment of the area, primarily for vegetation, the changes that we're seeing is the trail is wider in this section. Plants were removed on the south side of the trail. The entrance to the trail on Elgin Road, as well as the entrance to the wind turbine number 23, vegetation has been removed there. There was also culvert replacements, which Leanne looked after, and plants were removed in a road bypass area where the trucks would move to the side so another could pass. And to show these areas, these photos show the trail is widened. So in the second one, you can find the red button. Okay, I don't see the laser pointer on here. But in the second photo, in the foreground is a narrow trail, and farther down it's wider. So it's 2 meters wider, and it's on the south side. This shows the Elgin Road area, so we're looking west, and the photo with the vehicle in it shows the vegetation where it has been removed so that the trucks can move to the west. Is it possible to dim the lights of it so you can see the folks of it better? Thank you. This is another area which is on the south side. So this area here, the vegetation has been removed. So there could be an entrance to this turbine, which is wind turbine 23. So that's another area where, thank you, that's better. The other area where there has been a change is in the road bypass area. So this is where trucks could pass each other. This is the area here. So they put a gravel base there. It was a road and then they removed that base. This is how it looked in 2015, which is just primarily undergrowth, and this is how it looks now. Again, this shows where the trail is wider. So this is 3 meters and this is 5 meters. So that gives you an idea of the perspective. This again shows the difference. So we're at very east boundary looking west. This is Elgin Road, so you can see the difference there. And this is how it looked previously in 2015. This is approximately where the road would be. And this is on the far west end of our property, looking east. This is 2015, this is 2016. These are the same trees that you're looking at. So the difference is right in this area, a bit wider. So the changes are vegetation or plant-based. The areas that have been disturbed for that road bypass area and also for the area on the north side where Elgin Road is, they will be hydro-seeded with native grass and flower seeds. It will include all native species, and there's a list there from big blue stem, New England aster, some other grasses, and brown-eyed Susans. The vegetation that has been removed, including all of the south side as well as those areas, include species of staghorn sumac, poplar, willow, tall shrubs, Canada goldenrod, wild grape, and some invasives, including white sweet clover. There were also 28 native trees removed. Of these, they included ash, poplar, black willow, and red orchard dogwood, which is a shrub. There was one which was 20 centimeters DBH, which is diameter at base height, 2 that were 12, 1 that was 15, 2 that were 6, and the rest were 1 to 4. These trees were removed, and that's information that still has to be dealt with. The remaining areas of vegetation and undergrowth are all being replaced with those other species that were mentioned. And that's just the same information there. And generally, it's meeting within our strategic NPCA mission, which we're providing communication with stakeholders and clients to address community and customer concerns.
Thank you, Kim. Members, do you have any questions to Kim in the presentation or to the report 108 that this refers to? Mayor Jess?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one resident who had some concerns, and I have forwarded them along to Carmen, and you had said they were forwarded to him. So from what I can see, it looks, I think one of the issues was the type of gravel that was used. So this individual thought that the gravel, I can't remember if it was too, I think it was too fine in that person's opinion, or I forget, but there, and I think that was what was forwarded. So I don't know if you remember that, but so if you could just comment on the gravel with the trail.
Sure. When our staff created the trail, they put a base down, which is granular, right, which is 3/4 inch with us. And on top of that, they put screenings, which is 1/4 inch with us. And as I understand it, when you construct an area for larger vehicles, like that's primarily for pedestrian use, foot traffic. And then when you create an area for something for heavier vehicles, like the large trucks, they would normally, and I'm not certain of the specifics, but normally it's 2 to 3 inches as a base, and then the 3/4 inch on top of that. So there would be a slight difference as a top. But if it's related to species used in the area, it would be minute.
And just one more question. Did we get, when the trail, because the trail was closed at certain points, like did the Conservation Authority receive any complaints about that, or any complaints about the condition of the trail up until this point, since it's been used, that you know of?
I'm not familiar with any, no.
Carmen, are you familiar with that?
I'm going to refer to Greg Fernie, who received those complaints. Did we get any complaints?
Good news then. Thank you. I have questions from member Davey, Sandy, and Mickey. Brian?
Dale said there was some public concern about perhaps damage to the planting journal in particular. I wonder whether there's any sighting about a species or need to relocate for this construction.
Kim, are you in relation to that?
So the question is whether we saw any planting trails?
Yes.
No, we did not.
Okay. We haven't even cited it yet. Like, so we haven't seen it, we haven't had any reports of seeing it at this point.
No additional reports, no.
Carmen, have you got additional?
Yeah, and the not only was Kim out there doing her field test, but it is the onus upon the proponent to ensure, and so they had expertise on site. We were doing construction and looking out for species areas like the planting trail. So they didn't find it, and then our staff didn't find any either.
Okay, that's good to hear. It may not be appropriate at this point in time, but I'm wondering if there's been any discussion about the targeted use of the funds that they generate from this. In particular, I wonder whether there's any possibility of considering extension of the Burger Trail to meet up with Greater Metro or just Greater Provincial Trail. That may not be appropriate at this point in time. I don't know.
So we'll take that as a direction to staff to respond to that
Is there?
at a later meeting. Right? Member Lindsay had a
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for you, Kim, thanks. I'm going to ask you, because you're the first to ask, is there a difference between non-native species and invasive species? Or by virtue of being a non-native species, it is technically an invasive species?
That's a good question. So non-native is not natural to its original home range. Invasive is it's taking over. So it's outcompeting other species. So it could be both. Yes.
Okay, so this is one thing that I learned at Great Lakes Storm. And when they classify a non-native species, or maybe an invasive species, they use a threshold of European colonization. If it wasn't in existence before European colonization, 1400s, 1500s, then technically it's an invasive species. Is that the same threshold or the same measurement that we use to determine what's a non-native species or even an invasive species?
I'm sorry, did you say that it was measured by European colonization, and if it's before that, I missed that part.
So technically, if the species existed before European colonization, then it's native. Anything after that, if it was introduced, then it's a non-native species.
I'm not familiar with that
Yeah.
one.
That's the information. So I thought I'd ask you, you do
Oh,
know that?
okay.
Yeah.
Not familiar with that.
Apparently earthworms are non-native species.
Yes.
And they came over in 1400s, 1500s with European settlers. So-
Yes, and one of the other differences of invasive is it takes a strong hold on, it takes over the area and some other species.
Okay. So just to get back to that point then, so it's a non-native species. What threshold do we utilize to determine whether or not it's non-native?
It's assessed by Ministry of Natural Resources, which mentions whether it's native or non-native.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Kim, if you could follow up with Member Lindsay, I think there was some definitions offered at the forum that may be helpful. I have Member Mickey DeFrucia as well on this.
This question is for Kim. Kim, the plants that they replace, do they attract any type of feed or wildlife?
Thank you, Kim.
Yes, I'm just going to refer back to the species notes. So the question was whether they, sorry,
Whether they attract other wildlife. So maybe you're worried about attracting deer and that might interfere with farmers' activity on the same, this cornfield right beside ours. So as what is being planted, make as an additional attraction to deer, for example.
well, I don't know if I'd go as far to say additional attraction, but they are native species, so they would be utilized by native animals. And if you look at the flowers in there, so it's New England aster and brown-eyed Susans, then that would be assisting for some of the butterflies and providing nectar and food sources.
Okay. So what has been planted is native, and so it would attract the native wildlife as it might
Yes.
originally, before 1482 European colonization, perhaps. Mickey, are you happy with the answer? Are you satisfied? Thank you. Members, are there any further questions to that report 108 or to Kim? Then I would look for a motion, members, to receive for information reports 99 to 109. It does include this Gord Area Trail restoration. Member Beatty, Member Beatty. Any further questions? All those in, oh, sorry. Member Beatty, you do have a question on one of the reports?
Actually, it's concern or suggestion. First one being item 12, the Wainscombe Bog Restoration Plan.
Yes. Right.
The last page is a map of the area and the fire areas back to 1995. I draw your attention to that map because if it's the map of record, it's pretty awful. And it's been my experience working with staff at the NPCA at Cave Springs that they can generate some pretty good maps.
So could you use your microphone for us? Thanks.
So it's been my experience that they can generate, and the NPCA staff can generate some pretty good maps. And if this is going to be a map of record, I'm sure that the Wheatfield Bog, it's not over yet. It's a continuous process. It's a continuous problem. So I would ask that staff look at this map, and I've seen what they can do at Cave Springs, and give us a good map as a standard map. That's my first request. The second
That's
one,
noted in the minutes as a request to staff.
okay, thank you. And the second one is the reports 1, 2, and 3. They're monthly reports. I've sat here for the last 6 years and watched these reports get better and better and better. To the reports you're getting now monthly are really accepted. They're good compared to what we had 6 years ago. These are excellent reports. But I understand it takes a heck of a lot of staff time to generate these things monthly. And I'm wondering, I'm going to make a suggestion to the CEO to sit down with senior staff, and could they give us a model for 2017 that you can maybe bring these reports quarterly? Because they are good to see on an ongoing basis. I don't think we need to see them monthly. I know there's a lot of staff time goes into creating them. That staff time could be used somewhere else. I'm not at this point going to make a motion. I'm just asking the senior staff to have a look at it and come back if they think it's a good idea, if they think it's a bad idea. I personally, after 6 years of sitting here, think we could, and after we do that once a quarter, then in December, could we not have a summary report giving us a summary of all 3 areas of concern? So I would ask the CAO and the senior staff to have a look at that concept.
Thank you, Member Reedy. Carmen, the suggestion may be worth looking into in terms of saving staff time, but I think we'd also be looking at the opportunity each month for staff to highlight any areas of concern that might have come up in the monthly report. Carmen, do you have any suggestions on Member Reedy's request?
Other than there's 3 smiling faces up there. They would think so.
I would look forward then to your suggestions on that, and members will have an opportunity at the next month to have a look at what staff are suggesting for 2017. Thank you. Stuart? Members, are there any other questions to any other of these information reports? Seeing none, then I will call the question. All those in favor? Yes. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a presentation and with regard to the draft capital budget and apportionment. This is report number 11016. And you'll see the recommendations in front of you. And I'm going to ask Carmen to run through a presentation before I ask for a motion to be put on the floor. Thank you.
Okay, it's my pleasure to present to you our 2017 budget presentation. I'm going to do the initial slides, and then we're going to turn it over to John Wallace to give you the details of the numbers. But the direction we got from the budget committee is a total combined levy increase of 1%. That was our budget guidance. That our operating budget be based on actual costs. That there be no net reduction to the operating reserves. So, in other words, we're not using the reserves to subsidize the operating budget. That we sustain cost savings realized to date, and that we continue to pursue additional revenue generating opportunities. So, in building this, when we look at our actuals, I want to show you some trending in some of our performance metrics. So you can see in 2014, our revenues were about 1.4, and our expenses at our revenue generating parts was about 1.65. You can see, board members, we've reversed that, where we're now in a positive position. We now see our revenues at just over 1.5 million, and we're able to reduce our expenditures at 1.4. So we've reversed the trend. Really want to compliment the team at the operations of getting this, because it is your direction under the strategic plan that the parks become self-sustaining, and we're well on our way. But also our self-generating funds. You can see the budget committee asked for a 5-year trending, so You can see in 2011, self-generating was about 1.5 million. Our projection forecasted for 2016 is about 2 million. And we're in a conservative budget. We just slightly increased it for 2017. So this includes all our sales, our admissions, administration fees, permit fees, and other interest in self-generating funds. It was also in our strategic plan, and it impacts our budget in terms of streamlining our permits. And you can see in 2014, we administered 131 permits. Our benchmark we set was 30 days. And I'm happy to report that in 2016, with 205 permits, our turnaround on a permit is now an average of 19 days. So Peter and his team was able to reduce the permit application from 29-day average to 19. From the day we get the permit to the day we issue it. So it's definitely a streamlined process. Now, this does not translate to the fact that we're simply approving permits. What this does translate is that the pre-consultation meetings with the municipalities are working. So what we do is schedule meetings with the municipalities where the proponent comes before they even make their application. And that's where they get all the parameters and criteria. So when a proponent is ready and they submit, all the information is there, and it allows us to now streamline our permit process. We do this with the pre-consultation. We do this in partnership with all 12 municipalities and at the region. And we now introduced City View, which you approved, which will now allow us to track the numbers. Now we'll be able to here now break it up into the types of permits we're issuing. And our planners are doing phenomenal work. We have 4 planners. They're designated specific municipalities, and so they get those relationships built and are able to then address these permits and maybe any local issues that are developed. And then our number of volunteers. You can see in 2014 we had about 200 volunteers, and in 2016, with the phenomenal work by Carrie Royer, our community outreach and volunteer coordinator, we're over 400 volunteers estimated in 2016. And then our reserve reliance. In 2016, this operating budget, you can see we were over 300,000 reliance on the reserves for our operating budget. In 2017, our budget direction was no reliance on reserves, so we've reduced that to 0. So in the operating budget, there's 0 reliance on reserves, so now we can now build our reserves rather than deplete our reserves. So we reverse that trend. Now I'll hand it over to John to do the numbers.
Thank you, Carl. Well, what you have in front of you is the basically the funding of the operating budget. Again, the key that we see there is 0 reliance on reserves and 0 use of OPG funds for operations. This is the levy breakdown with the 1% increase. You can see we have comparative numbers from 15 to 16 and our 2017 increase and the appropriate portion as well. These are the key increases and decreases in revenues. You can see that as Carmen alluded to earlier, the park revenues are showing an increase from 17, our other revenues as well, increase in levy. What we did realize in this budget is that there appears to be a reduction in both federal and provincial funding, mostly in the watershed area. And I mean, our idea there is that if the funding does become available, we will adjust our spending accordingly. This is the uses of the funding that we just had a couple of slides ago. You can see our corporate services, our watershed, and operations department. And it balances to 0 as well. These are the keys by department. These are just very high level points that we thought we would make. The increase of $12,000 to the board members per diem. This was really a direct result of the strategic plan and the increased participation of board members is driving this. Increase attendance in subcommittees and so on. We have a $13,500 increase in the communications and marketing. Increase of $50,500 in basically more consulting fees. And we're showing a reduction of $36,500 in materials and supplies by realizing efficiencies. We get to our watershed, we increase the permit fees by 1.5%. I believe that's the guidance of CPI. We increased the $30,000 for lab analysis, increased well decommissioning. Reduction in contractor services shows a little bit of a higher number there. Part of that, we had a discussion this morning, part of that is a reallocation. In the past, materials and supplies were included in that number. We've broken them out to be more appropriate, and we're trying to be a little more accurate with that. And again, the other result of the reduction in contractor services is the reduction in the federal and provincial funding, which is basically the watershed. Our operations department, we're showing our increase of a little over $100,000, $20,000 for strategic initiatives. We have an event that we're hoping is going to make us $50,000. And the $40,000 is a reduction of equipment purchases. We're trying to delineate the capital and operating line there. In the past, there was always a wound up in operations, so we basically moved over to capital. And in total, the reduction of our operating expenditure is $130,000. Capital budget, which we discussed the last week at the steering committee, the available capital levy of $471,000. The recommended approval on 11 projects. Some of them, I believe, they're in another report that the board would have. There's left bridge at Long Beach, a septic system replacement at Falls Falls, data center maintenance within corporate services, water level and water quality equipment within the water department, that's microscopic equipment and so on. The remaining $1.8 million of OPG funds, we're planning to spend $271,000 in the three areas that are listed: ecological projects, tree planting, and a digital training model. Do you want to take it over?
Sure. Okay. Thanks, John. And so our summary is we have a 1% guidance, so we achieved that. But as you can see, in each of the departments, we've actually are improving service delivery in each of our operations, watershed, and our corporate services. We are now have an operating budget that's now on actuals. Now is a parameter within our strategic plan. So now we have good historical trending, and we know with our new software, Sage, we can now actually build our budgets based on actuals that we realized in the previous year. There is no reduction in reserves to subsidize our operating budget. We sustained cost savings realized to date. That was an objective. We've accomplished that, and we're continuing pursuing revenue-generating opportunities. And one example is the tree tracking that we plan to introduce to Bedrock. And that, board members, is our budget presentation.
Thank you. Members, I would like questions to the presentation, and then I will go to our Budget Committee Chair, Member Quirk, for the motions. So I see Member Annunziata and Member Diodati.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for that, gentlemen. Two quick questions. Impressive with respect to pushing out permits and the days. Now that we've seen that trending, I think we've gone from a high of 24 days on average, pushing out permits to 19. Is there an opportunity now with respect to a communication strategy or an outreach program to our investors, the business community, the building community, to specifically say, building permits process in 21 days? I mean, I understand the average, but I just think as far as building that that relationship with the building community, providing that predictability, that voters and investors really, really rely on, could we set that specific timeline, 21 days?
Peter? Okay, and start, but the benchmark was 30, brought it to 19.
Yeah.
And here's where we're gonna offer, we're not there yet, but we're gonna offer proponents a portal into our city view, if Jeff's here. So Jeff's building it that if you're a proponent and you submitted a permit application, you wanna know where it's at, you log in to our system, you pull up your file number, you can see exactly where it's at, what stage it's at of the review. To hit the 21-day mark and make that commitment, we do plan to do workshops, but now I'm going to turn it over to Peter.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Thank you for the question. Always trying to push the envelope. I appreciate that. I would respectfully say that we're just in the very, very, very early stages of launching City View, which is our really key tool to be able to track on an accurate, ongoing basis these type of metrics. We're looking to expand those metrics, but I would respectfully request that we buy a little bit more time before we make a step like that. I'm all for the premise and the philosophy or the principle behind it, absolutely. But I would ask that we give ourselves a little bit more time, like after like a 6-month period, maybe mid-2017, let's review those figures and confirm where we're at with City View being able to validate those numbers and then go from there. I mean, I think the premise is solid with it, but I think we just need a little bit more time.
So perhaps with the launch of City View, at a 6-month benchmark, we come back to the board and we ask for, we recommend a new benchmark target. Maybe that's balanced.
And that works, and I respect the answer and I'll defer to staff. Ultimately, though, I think it would be advantageous for any corporation, whether it be the municipality, whether it be the region, whether we have this discussion with NEC, whether it be the Conservation Authority, to set that definitive timeline of pushing out permits to instill that confidence in the investment community. So hopefully we can work on that. That's my first question. My second question, is there an opportunity when it comes to materials, and there's a lot of paperwork that we get, is there an opportunity to streamline that process? I'm assuming that the platform has already been built for the region. I don't know what platform we utilize. There would be that great an outlay as far as hardware goes for board members. Is there an opportunity to streamline the packages and send everything digital? In the event a board member wants or requests a hard copy, then that would be the acceptance, certainly they would get that. But I don't know what the cost savings would be, but I think that's the trend that we're doing at the region now. If these could be supplied, that way, and I'll leave it with that.
I would respond that Jeff Burkett did look at his system and looked at how the region was doing it. We did some preliminary analysis. There's some investment, some capital costs required to do that. Jeff did set up OneDrive where board members can currently get it electronically, but to go to a full system like the region of Niagara, we'd have to bring back a report, look at the cost, what capital investment we would need, and what staffing services would be required. So I'll take that, if I may, as direction.
I'm going to give you that direction because I'm going to assume at some point we will move away, whether it's next year, whether it's 10 years from now. At some point we will move away from hard copies and it'll be digital. So maybe if we start that process now, we can get some facts and figures as far as if there is cost savings moving in that direction, and why not start that process now?
Appreciate the direction, and we'll have that suggestion noted in minutes. Thank you. I have for other members, Member Diodati and Member Beatty. To the questions to the presentation, Jim.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And just if I could piggyback on that one suggestion at the Parks Commission regarding e-agendas. Leading boards is a phenomenal platform to run about, much better than eScribe with the region, much simpler, much easier to use, and it's a real good system. So anyway, throw that out there to you. Empirical evidence. I just want to compliment the staff on an outstanding budgetary process. My gosh, expenses are down, revenues are up, and service is up, and that's a trifecta. So I just wanted to say, I think well done. I mean, you came within guidance, and on all fronts, I have to say, is that loud? Is it just me, or is it kind of consistent? Okay, but it's just me. Thank you. So I just want to say congratulations. I think you covered all the key points. Are there areas for improvement? There always are, but I'd say well done. I just want to say well done.
Thank you. Member Beatty?
And don't forget the budget chair, obviously. Fantastic. Did I read all the notes exactly? Sorry, I left out that. I couldn't understand the last part. Thank you.
The chair of the budget committee will get his turn, Jim. I have Member Beatty has the floor.
Yeah, and I'm basically going to echo Mike's already. I'm going to echo comments of both my colleagues on the other side of the table. I think that we have here the basis for a very significant end of strategic plan report in terms of progress. And I think it would be a great communication vehicle to all our stakeholders and to the community at large in terms of the significant turnaround that's happened on all fronts. And I too was concerned. I've asked for, and then Member Quirk followed through the corporate services. I've asked for the region to prepare a report to say what the impact has been financially for going to the iPads and eScribe compared to the cost. It's not just the cost of the paper, and it's the cost of the secretarial time to reproduce that paper. It's the cost of the pure labor, whoever makes the delivery and so on. So there's many ways of calculating the true value. And I too would ask that we gather that information for ourselves. Hopefully within the next few months, get the report from the region to get some comparable analysis, and maybe to investigate the iPad as a fairly expensive platform to work on, maybe better ways with other PC, Microsoft products or Android operating system. But I think it's something we should pursue. I think that our image as an organization in terms of conservation authority would be significantly positively affected by becoming paperless or paper-light as the region refers to it. So thank you for the report. I appreciate the way in which it's been presented. And as I say, it's pretty significant fodder for the end of this term of council when we finish our strategic planning process of communication back to the stakeholders. But we listen and we responded. Thank you.
Thank you. Member Maloney.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I was wondering where the questions or disputes with the city of Hamilton resides with their respective levies in this budget. Not only the questions open to different opinions, as well as the current levy.
Thank you. Carmen, would you be able to address that in terms of the status of the appeals on the levy and how Hamilton is addressing the budget levies that we have put to in the last couple of years?
Okay, I'll respond to that in 3 parameters. The first parameter, the city of Hamilton did give us a budget guidance of 1.8%. Using the apportionment formula, we came in at 1.4%. So that's good news. We met their budget guidance. On the second count is that Conservation Ontario has submitted a request to the province to look at the funding model across all conservation authorities, which also includes the apportionment. That's an appropriate request at this time because the Conservation Act review is open for discussion. So if there's any, now is the time, now is the window of opportunity to look at the funding model now that the Conservation Act is open for review, because what's decided with the City of Hamilton will have an impact right across the province. And the third parameter is that the city did ask the Mine and Lands Commission to put the hearing in abeyance so they could challenge what is stated in the Act versus what is stated in the regulation. And we're following apportionment as per the regulation. The city of Hamilton's taken respectfully, they've taken the position that the act does not support the regulation that we use. And so they asked the commission to put it in abeyance while they take the issue to Ontario court. The Lands and Mining Commission responded and refused that abeyance and is going ahead with the hearing. So we now then received submissions from Niagara Region and Haldimand County asking for party status to the hearings. The board here took the position that they have no objection to that, and we're waiting for the commission to rule on the party status of those two, being the region of Niagara and Haldimand County, and then thereafter schedule the meetings for the meeting dates for the hearing. So that's where we are now at the Hamilton issue.
Thank you. John, are you satisfied?
Well, is there a separate line item that sort of sets these potential funds, sort of noted in the statement, but not really a part of our bottom line? Referred as a potential liability, but a potential act.
Are we able to answer that? And Tony, did you want to speak to the issue? I'll give you the floor first.
Thank you, Chair, and through you to Member Maloney. There is a line item that we actually look at that amount as the levy differential, and Member Hodgson's been very clear on that that should be separated out each time. It is not used for operations at all, so if the differential comes into play later on, then we have to reassess or go without the Hamilton differential. We'll be able to accommodate that within the budget to a certain extent. There are some adjustments that we have to make, but I think we're incorporating that into it. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
And if I may, in your information package, in the monthly statements, there is a reserve sheet and it'll show the levy differential. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, members, I would like to turn the floor over to our budget committee chairman, Member Quirk. If you would like to put the motion on the floor, then I'll need a seconder, and then we can speak to the motion.
Thank you, Chair. I'm moving the motion that the budget be approved as presented.
All right, the specific motions, you have got in front of you. Okay. Well, there's 3 recommendations. The third one included the apportionment table. Members, you have it in your package. Item 1 is that the NPCA board approve the 2017 levy-supported draft capital budget of $471,000 as recommended by the Budget Steering Committee. Second item is that the NPCA board approve the 2017 OPG fund supported draft capital budget of $171,000 as recommended by the Budget Steering Committee. And item 3 is that the following 2017 apportionment costs identified in Chart 1 be forwarded to the participating municipalities in accordance with Section 2.1B of the Ontario Regulation 670/00. And then there's Chart 1. I'll turn the floor back to you, Member Quirk.
I know what you just said, Chair.
That's good. Thank you. I have one question, Member B.
I would ask that that be split into 3 motions, please.
Sure, thank you. We will then, and we'll need to conduct a recorded vote on this item because of the significance of it. So we'll split the 3 items. And members, are there any questions to item 1? I'll call the question to item 1. All those in favor to recommendation 1? Oh, yes. So we have to have a recorded vote, and I guess we'll do it by reading the list and asking for your vote. Member Annunziata?
Yes.
Member Beatty?
Yes.
Member Beatty?
Yes.
Member Campion?
Yep.
Member Dart?
Yes.
Member DeFrucio?
Okay.
Member Diodati?
In favor.
Member Hodgson.
Yes.
Member Jeffs. Member Joyner. Support. That's a yes? Yeah, very good. Member Caspersett.
Aye.
Aye. Member Maloney.
Yes.
Member Quirk.
Yes.
Member Shurton is absent, and I vote yes, as chair. So, second then is call to vote. Are there any questions to item 2? Seeing none, then I'll call for the recorded vote on that. Member Nunziata.
Yes.
Member Beatty. Yes. Member B.
Yes.
Member Campion. Yes. Member Dart.
Yes.
Member DeFuscio.
Yes.
Member Diodati.
Yes.
Member Hodgson.
Yes.
Member Jeffs.
Yes.
Member Joyner.
Yes.
Member Caspersett.
Aye.
Member Maloney.
Yes.
Member Quirk.
Yes.
And as chairman, I vote yes. So item 3 is the apportionment chart portion of this motion. And I'll call the vote on that as well. Member Nunziata.
Yes.
Member Beatty.
Yes.
Member B.
No.
Member Campion.
Yes.
Member Dart.
Yes.
Member DeFuscio.
Yes.
Member Diodati.
Aye.
Member Hodgson.
Yes.
Member Jeffs.
Yes.
Member Joyner.
Yes.
Member Caspersett.
No.
Okay. Member Quirk.
Yes.
Member Maloney. Sorry. And I vote yes.
Carried.
Members, that all 3 motions have carried. And we noted the obvious, I guess, the concerns of the Hamilton members on that apportionment issue. And I thank you for your attention. Thank you especially to staff for the work that you have done to bring the results that we see today. I think it is the results we were looking for. The trend line is exactly what we were asking for. So I appreciate the amount of work that went into that from the staff point of view. And Committee Chairman Quirk and members of the Budget Committee that we were able to pursue the directions that the board had asked for and meet the guidance of the City of Hamilton, the guidance of the Niagara region, and I think we met the guidance from Alden County as well. So thank you for that. Congratulations, staff. This is Carmen. We've got this in good time and able to present it, I think, a very acceptable form to both Niagara region and Hamilton. And I'll be pleased to stand in front of all those bodies and make this presentation. These 2 of them will be happy. All right, next item of business. Report 111. I guess it's report FA 137 in regard to the Conservation Authority fee schedule as outlined in Appendix 1. Members, I need a mover and a seconder. You've had an opportunity to review the schedule and the recommendations. I see member Beatty and member moves and member Campion seconds. Any questions? All right, so the motion is that the report 111 be received, that the NPCA board approve the 2017 conservation area fee schedule as outlined in Appendix 1 of this report, and that the NPCA board approve the 2017 seasonal campsite fee and other camping fee increases recommended for both Chippewa Creek and the Long Beach conservation areas in this report. You ready for the question? All those in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, staff, for the work you put into that report as well. I think the trend line in our conservation and our camping areas has been very positive. And I don't expect this fee increase to be seen as anything other than reasonable, and I think it'll be well received by our customers. Any other business before we go to the in-camera session? Brian?
Two short several, perhaps multiple absences from certain members. One week we could examine what our policy is in that regard, and if one member in particular seems to be regularly absent, needs to be replaced, we would like to step down. So that can be examined, and maybe ongoing, not necessarily this, so the start next year, maybe we just do a policy of the traditional 3 days of notification, etc. The second thing is, like we mentioned to the colleagues here on the table, that I had the pleasure today of being given a tour of the St. John Education Center. This is the old school building that's at the top of the hill above our property. They have done a complete they've gathered it, they have refurbished it, it looks very much like the facility it would in. And because it's been the start of this problem with the development permit, which actually was waived, there's no change to the external structure, but everything else, all the windows are changed, all the classroom areas are extremely attractive. Kevin Graham from the school has offered, if we'd like at some point in time, a facility for meetings. Not available right now. It's finished, but it doesn't furnish and so on. But if we'd like to perhaps have a meeting there at some point in time to see that facility, it's right above where the St. John Center is that we own, and maybe we could at some point in time get a tour as well of the current St. John Center that we own to see the program as it's evolved in the school board or university. It's a pretty impressive thing. Their plan is to also, it's more about this, there's a portable, very ugly portable on the property. They'd like to demolish it or remove it, whatever the case may be, and put an outdoor center similar to it, and it would be like a frame canopy with an outdoor fireplace, and then large logs for seating and so on, so it very much look like the within center.
Thank you, Brian. So this is an elementary school that is no longer serving that purpose. And which board is it?
It's ESPN, public school board.
Public school.
And it has been out there center for probably 30 some years. But they have significant, basically it's a new building.
Right.
Except for the roof with the walls.
Okay, well, I appreciate the suggestion. Carmen, I think we'll be able to make some inquiries on that for it.
I'm meeting with Mr. Graham October 31st, so good timing, I'll talk to him about it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Then members, seeing no other business, I would take a motion that we move into closed session to discuss a confidential matter of advice identifying an individual. Moved member Joyner, seconded member Kasperzak. All those in favor? That carries. So we will be going in camera, and we would ask that the gallery and relevant staff that are not involved in this particular issue are excused from the meeting, and we'll reconvene with whatever action is recommended from the in-camera session. So we'll take a 5-minute recess before we come back into the in-camera session to allow the room to be clear. Thank you.